There are moments in life when you realize you don't love the way that you used to. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I feel like perhaps early on in your life, there was like puppy love and love had to feel a certain way. But then as you get older, it's like your love style kind of changes. And the things that you value in love change and evolve over time as well. What you want in a partner changes. What you value changes. Your standards, your desires, your capacity for intimacy, it all evolves. That shift isn't random. It's the movement of your progressed Venus, the part of your chart that shows how your love style grows as you grow. So, in this video, I'm going to be discussing your progressed Venus and what it has to say about the evolution of your love style. All right, so if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and sound therapist, and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new, welcome. And as always, if you're returning, welcome back. So today's video is about progressed Venus. Now, this requires us to look at a completely different chart. You've got your natal chart, and you have what's called your progressed natal chart. Think of your natal chart as a photo and your progressed natal chart as a video. Your progressed natal chart shows your evolution over time. And when you examine the planets in your progressed natal chart, you can show or you can examine how certain topics in your life have progressed and evolved over time. And so in this video, we're going to be talking about Venus. And so this is all about how your love style, your attraction style, and what you need in relationships has progressed over time. All right. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So, of course, to begin, I'd like you to think about and meditate on this core idea. Progressed Venus shows how your heart matures, how your desires, values, and relationship needs transform as you evolve through life. The progressed chart moves slowly, mirroring your inner development. When Venus progresses into a new sign, house, or forms new aspects, your entire approach to love shifts with it. So it's important to understand sort of the basics of progressed natal charts to begin with. So, progressed charts, like I said before, shows the progression of your life, and it shows the progressions of the planets in your natal chart. So essentially, wherever your Venus is natally, it will show its progression depending on how many years you live. So it takes Venus approximately 30 years to move through a sign when we're talking about progressed natal chart. Now, this all depends on where Venus is natally in your chart. So if you've got Venus, let's say at 1 degree of, let's say, Aries, right? It will take 30 years, or should I say 29 years, for Venus to change signs and move into Taurus. Yet, if you've got Venus at 28 degrees, it'll take Venus only 2 years to progress into the next sign, right? So it depends on where Venus is placed in your natal chart, but Venus generally moves slowly and takes 30 years. So it's interesting because the way that progressed natal charts work, 30 seems to be an important number because that's about as long as it takes the sun to progress in your natal chart as well. So you may want to think of your life in terms of like thirds. You have the first third of your year, the second third of your. Now, this is not required when talking about progressed charts. It's just a good way to sort of think about it abstractly. You have different eras of your life, and that's very indicative of when we look at life generally. You have childhood, you have adulthood, and then you have sort of your golden years, your elderly years, right? That's looking at life in thirds. Your progressed natal chart kind of shows the same thing, but on a more granular level. Okay. And so again, it takes Venus approximately 30-ish years to progress. Like that's her progression cycle. So, to begin, let's talk about what progressed Venus actually represents. How your tastes in partners evolve. That's one. Two, how your love language matures. Three, what you're attracted to now versus the past. And honey, that could be like night and day, especially if you're watching this and you're of a certain age, right? If you are in your mid to late 30s, early 40s, and beyond, you may find that when you were younger, you had a type, a particular type, which could have been evidenced by Venus in your natal chart. Let's say you got natal Venus in Leo. God bless. But when it comes to what you want in love, what you are attracted to, you're attracted to, I like to call like that Leo energy, especially in dating, like the dog and pony show. Someone who likes to show up and show out, someone who's on the scene, they're real loud and whatever, right? That was when your Venus was in Leo. And then let's say your Venus progresses into Virgo. That's a whole new flavor. Venus in Virgo wants the studious, organized, hardworking person, not the person who's out at the club popping bottles every week. So you see how progressed Venus can show what you were attracted to then versus what you're attracted to now. Okay. Now, your progressed Venus can also show the new relationships you're ready for, sort of piggybacking off of your new taste in partners. Now you can see what you're ready for in relationships. And this is a very important point, especially now with so many people, especially women, being single and wanting relationships. It's not just enough to know yourself, but it's also, you need to know how your relationship taste has evolved and own that. Because again, what you wanted then may not be what you want now, but maybe you're still stuck on that past program. And maybe the reason why your relationships aren't working, they're failing to launch, or they're not moving into commitment territory is because you're still operating from your old Venus, not your new one. That's definitely something to think about, especially in this day and age when relationships are not only really heavy on people's minds, but a dumpster fire, for lack of a better phrase. It can also show the emotional lessons you're integrating. So remember, everything about your progressed natal chart is about evolution. And so it's showing you in real time what you're evolving through. And that can really denote the emotional lessons you are currently integrating. All right. It's really great when it comes to that. Essentially, progressed Venus shows who your heart is becoming. I love progress charts essentially because they show you who you are becoming. They feature your evolution. They show how you have changed. And you do change. We all do, whether we're conscious of it or not. But to see that change delineated in a chart, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I mean, I geek out over astrology, so I would think it's amazing. But if you were to examine your progressed natal chart, I think that you would think the same thing too. So now let's talk about when your progressed Venus changes signs. This is profound, okay? Because depending on how your life is set up, where your natal Venus is, and how long you live, some people don't experience their Venus changing signs, although a lot of people do. But regardless, when your Venus changes signs, it progresses into a new sign. This is one of the biggest turning points in your life. And I cannot stress that enough. So, has my Venus changed signs? I'm not sure. No, I don't think my natal Venus has changed signs, but literally, when your Venus progresses into another sign, complete change. And it could mark a milestone in your love life. So let's say your Venus progresses into a fire sign. You now want passion, excitement, and spontaneity. This is important because if your Venus is progressing into a fire sign, that means that it was in a water sign. So you're moving from like emotions and tenderness and softness to wanting the dog and pony show, to wanting flash, pizzazz, to wanting spontaneity and fire. That's like going from night to day. So let's say that your Venus sign is progressing into an earth sign. That means that it was in a fire sign before. So when it was in a fire sign, you wanted flash, pizzazz, you wanted all the smoke, right? And then when it moves into an earth sign, you crave stability, security, and devotion. It slows it down a bit and arguably makes it a little more mature. It's not to say that if your Venus was in a fire sign, it's a sign of immaturity. It's just you prioritize different things. And in an earth sign, Venus gets slowed down a bit. Now, let's say your Venus moves from an earth sign into an air sign. You now need conversation, connection, and stimulation. Whereas when your Venus was in an earth sign, presence was enough. Sometimes resources was enough. I know that we all know people, and this is no shade to anyone, right? But for some people, their stability in relationships is money, right? They need a partner who can provide stability financially, and that's it. And maybe that is indicative of your Venus being in an earth sign. And it could mean that you don't converse with that person a lot. There's no emotional connection. It's like love is shown through acts of service and through money. And then all of a sudden, your Venus progresses into an air sign. Now you need some sort of connection. You need some mental stimulation. You need some conversation. These are important things to examine because, especially if you're talking about a long term relationship, those things evolve. What worked in the beginning, especially if you're with someone 10, 20, 30, 40 years, those needs and those desires are going to change. And you can definitely see that through the progressed chart, specifically through the progressed Venus. So let's say your Venus was in an air sign and now it has progressed into a water sign. You now are ready for emotional depth and vulnerability. So, whereas in an air sign, you want the mental stimulation, the banter, the conversation. When Venus moves into a water sign, now you're like, I need emotional depth. I need an emotional bond and a connection. I need vulnerability, right? See how it changes and see how one builds on the other in terms of element. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to examine these things when you're talking about or when you're in a long term relationship. Because again, what worked yesterday, and by yesterday, I may mean like a decade ago, may not work today. But even if you're not booed up, just how you feel in relationships and what you need in relationships has also evolved. And so being able to ascertain this is key when talking about sustaining an existing relationship or getting into a new one. Okay, food for thought. People often say, I don't know why, but I just can't date the way I used to. Once you get to a certain age, you're going to be saying that a lot. That's progressed Venus talking. What you're attracted to, what you need in relationships, it changes. And the progressed Venus will tell you all about that. Now, it also bears mentioning when your Venus changes houses. Okay. It's kind of along the same flavor as when it changes signs, although signs, I think, tell more about the characteristics. When progressed Venus changes houses, it activates a different area of your life. So if Venus progresses into your first house, for example, it's redefining your image and what you attract. When Venus progresses into your first house, you could change how you look completely, your physical look. Even your outlook on life will change. Okay? Let's say Venus is progressing into your fifth house. Whereas before, because before that it would have been in your fourth house, there's an emphasis on home and family. And when it progresses into fifth house, now there's this desire for romance, creativity, and pleasure. Now, when Venus progresses into your seventh house, you're ready for marriage, you're ready for partnership, you're ready for commitment. Whereas before, when Venus was in your sixth house, you were focused on work, you were focused on your daily routine. And now when it goes into your seventh house, you're like, I kind of want to share my life with someone. I want to go through life, do life with somebody. That's definitely speaking to a Venus seventh house progression. And then when Venus progresses into your eighth house, this denotes craving deeper intimacy and emotional merging. It's not just enough to be married. It's not just enough to be booed up. I want to be a unit with you. That definitely speaks to a Venus eighth house progression. Okay. Venus moving houses often coincides with major relationship milestones. For instance, when Venus moves into your seventh house, you could actually be getting married. When Venus moves into your fifth house, this could be when you start dating again, perhaps after isolation or maybe even the death of a partner, right? Your progressed Venus can show you all of that. So now I want to briefly talk about progressed Venus aspects. Now, to be clear, this is when your progressed Venus is making an aspect to your regular natal chart. It's like the best way to really understand your evolution is to see how your progressed chart compares to your regular natal chart. So these aspects that I'm about to talk about is when your progressed Venus is making an aspect to, aka pinging or activating a planet in your regular natal chart. So to begin, let's talk about when your progressed Venus is conjunct your natal sun. This can denote falling in love with yourself all over again. This is sort of re-energizing your self-love. Let's say your progressed Venus is conjunct your natal moon. This denotes an emotional awakening. This can really stir romantic feelings or feelings that you want to experience. Let's say your progressed Venus is conjunct your natal Mars. This can denote a time of increased desire and attraction, aka you've got ants in your pants and you're feeling a little hot and spicy, right? And but most importantly, it can really reignite desire and attraction in your life. Let's say you've got progressed Venus conjunct your natal Saturn. This can denote commitment shifts or an event that can evoke commitment in your life. Like this could be wanting commitment after a long time of belonging to the streets, perhaps. This could be a time of divorce, even where you no longer want to be committed to someone. Let's say you've got progressed Venus conjunct your natal Uranus. This is sudden changes in love, getting married on a whim, getting divorced, suddenly dating. All of those things happen suddenly. Let's say you've got your progressed Venus conjunct your natal Neptune. This is having rose colored glasses on and really being idealistic and really tapping into spiritual love and spiritual bonds within your love relationships. And then finally, let's say you've got your progressed Venus conjunct your natal Pluto. This could be transformation through intimacy. Either way, that particular configuration, progressed Venus conjunct your natal Pluto, something major is going to be happening in your love life when that happens. Either way, progressed Venus explains why the person you loved at 20 years old is not the person you're drawn to now. Because you're not the same person anymore, and neither are they. So it's interesting because what I just got right now and what I see in my head is like a moving target. Yes, it can be hard to pinpoint that. And yes, it can be hard to really hit the bullseye on a moving target. However, it shows how we evolve, how our tastes evolve, and thereby it shows how our approach to love needs to evolve as well. So when you hear a lot of people talking about failed relationships, not being able to date, their progressed Venus could really play a part in that. So send them this video and direct them to me so I can read their progressed chart so that they can understand where they've changed, where their tastes have changed, where their values and their criteria have changed, and how that affects their relationship story. Progressed Venus can tell you so much about the person you're becoming and the relationship that you ultimately want to get into. All right, so let's pause briefly for a moment of reflection and self inquiry. So here's your reflection for today. How has your approach to love changed? And does it reflect who you are now or who you used to be? Progressed Venus asks, are your relationships aligned with your evolution? Spend some time thinking about how you have evolved as a person. And then if you're currently coupled up, has that relationship evolved with you? Or if you're single, how has your dating style, your tastes, and your values in relationships changed? Of course, this is all within the realm of progressed Venus. So think about it, meditate on it, and journal on this topic for today. Now, before we talk about evolution, we have to talk about our baseline relationship archetype, right? And you can find out yours in my free seduction style quiz. It's a cute, fun little quiz that helps you understand your relationship archetype by examining your Venus and your Mars sign by asking you a couple of fun little questions. All right. So if you're interested in that, the link to that is in the description box below. And if you want to take things further, right? And again, this would be the first step before actually looking at your progressed natal chart, then you'll want to sign up for my signature natal chart experience, the blueprint. This is where I help you understand everything that you need to know about your natal chart. You not only get a 60-minute live reading, but you get a private online portal, private online client portal where you get a ton of resources. Plus, you get a 30-day alignment map so that post reading, you know exactly what energies to expect and how to best work with them. So, if you're interested in signing up for the blueprint, the first step is to sign up for a free 15-minute clarity call so we can decide whether the blueprint is even right for you, and if so, how to get started. So, if you're interested in that, the link to that is in the description box below. And if you want something a little lighter, then join me over in Cosmic Collective, which is my online private community where we go deep into these topics every single week because I go live there every Friday afternoon. And we could talk about relationships, we could talk about natal charts. I usually do a case study using some celebrity charts, and you get to commune with some really awesome people who are also interested in astrology. In addition, you also get access to exclusive content, like that's where all of my sign-specific videos live. So it's definitely a great vibe over there. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, or you can hit the link in the description box below. I'm very excited to commune with you on that side of things. So join us over there. You won't regret it. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video on your progressed Venus and how it shows your evolution in love over time. All right, so hopefully you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use moving forward to understand how you have evolved and the actions that you can take so that your relationships can evolve with you as well. All right, so join me tomorrow where we are going to discuss Venus retrograde and what it means for exes coming back into your life. All right. Contrary to popular belief, it's not so much Mercury retrograde that means an ex is going to come back. It's definitely Venus retrograde. So we're going to talk all about that in tomorrow's video. All right. So set notifications, subscribe, comment, like, and share, especially if you find value in these videos. All right, my loves. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.